Hi, everyone. Nice to see you today. Thanks for joining me today. It's a special day. Can you believe it's already been a month since we last talked? Can't really believe that. Plus, the solstice happened. We want to address that today because that was a big deal. It was very subtle but powerful. And I hope that something opened for you. I'll tell you some of what I've been hearing from the people who are connected and doing sessions with me or via email. And then, of course, from my teacher, too, I got to spend some time with her and got to hear what she perceived, and I would love to share. So, just really grateful to be with you today, and been thinking of you all month as I've been traveling back from the US. I'm home now in Ecuador, and I wanted to invite you to two different things. First, my friend Adria and I did a really beautiful 2-day long nourishing retreat. Instead of a working retreat, a nourishing one where you're not supposed to do any work. And the first day, I brought through a lot of energy around the 5 fields of limitation, which are big, huge programs that really quash us down. Even now, it's kind of the leftover remnants of matrixy thinking, right? And so then the second day, Adria channeled all this incredible information around sovereignty from the angelic. And I don't think of myself as a channeler so much. I'm more like a mediator. But Adria is something else. And what she's able to do is really beautiful, and it's the real deal. I am so blessed to actually see these angels, but she has such a joyful, very playful relationship with them. And it was very beautiful. It was a wonderful retreat. We took the price down really low because we want to give you a chance to enjoy the replay of this. It's this gorgeous 2-day long retreat. So if you're feeling like you need some nourishment right now, some light, besides just receiving it from the field, right? Which you're always welcome to ask for that. From me and anyone else who does that kind of work, asking at the moment is really key. I want to encourage you to ask for what you need. And I can't tell you how important that is, because as we go forward, many of the structures we're used to getting our needs met from aren't going to look the same. They may not even be there at all. And that's when we're going to really need to ask from each other. Money is not something that should keep you from getting what you need. So, for those of you who need some session time, I meet with people each week for sessions. And if you feel that the monetary exchange that I have on my site won't work for you, email me. Let's work it out. We can do scholarships. If you want to access this retreat and you would rather do like a payment plan, it's about $150. We brought it down by a lot, by almost half. And so, if that's still not going to work, ask for what you need. Payment plans can be made to get what you need. A lot of times when I do sessions, I'm going to give you a bunch of free classes usually. That's what's included in that cost. And so I want to make sure you get what you need. We can never stop learning right now. We can never stop training. And we can never, ever get enough nourishment and light that will help to not only help you and your body heal and your mind, your spirit, your purpose become more clear, but it'll help your family too. So I'm going to be sending an email out tonight with a link to the I Am Divine Guided Retreat. And if it appeals to you, if you enjoy the energetic of it, grab it because it's instant access now, and you can listen to it over and over and over again. And there's transcripts of what we do in both of the days of our retreat. So it's really quite nice to be able to have those transcripts too. And that's all included for you. Okay. The second thing I want to invite you to do is to make sure that you're meditating every day. I know it's like 101, but here's why. Especially now after the solstice, there is a window that's happened. The best way I can describe it is if you've ever been in an airplane and you are going through clouds and there's that section of clouds that's kind of like a sandwich where it's really bright and light between two layers of clouds, right? That's what's happened. I can't describe the phenomena very well because it's so formless, but it's like there's a window that leads you to more formless dimensions, right? The higher, they're not really higher, but the more still dimensions are very bright, and there's nothing to see there. When you go up into like 10, 11, 12 dimensions with your embodiment, you can't see anything, which was really hard for me because I'm used to literally living by sight, right? Well, there's nothing to see, it's all to feel, because now you've got down to the refined aspects of reality, which we would call particles of consciousness. In the 10th and 11th, they show you their organization, and you get to see from that vantage point the perfection of this universe. Even with all the crap going on the planet, the perfection of it can be really noted at that level. There is a gateway opened for this to be accessed by your soul through the crown, through the pineal gland, what they call the cave of Brahma or cave of Brahman, right? And take advantage of this. The only way you're going to be able to access it is meditating on it. And just ask, hey, I want to feel this. Don't worry about seeing anything. There's nothing to see. I want to feel this. I want to feel this formlessness. What it's going to do immediately is your body's going to feel expansive. You're going to feel that state of oneness come on. And I want you to take advantage of this. I have no idea if it's going to stay open or what. But when the solstice happened, it kind of did two things for me. So personal to the universal. The first thing it did was made me really, really aware of how my ego is structured. Like the energy of it brought me into such formlessness without me, it was involuntary, without me realizing it. And here's what was weird about it. I was actually at a public event. I know I should have probably been meditating, but I was at a public event and I wasn't sure if solstice would like have an effect on me while I'm in public, right? But it sure did. And so I know better next time. But it blew open the field to be so formless that I could see the structure of my ego in front of me. And it was pretty weird because I'm trying to introduce myself to these new friends, these really cool people that my ego really wants to impress. And I'm feeling very separated from this version of me who's trying to impress this person and my stillness, which is my soul. And honestly, it brought me to a determination of more desire than ever to be finished with this structure because it just distorts everything. It's not real. That introduction, the first few introductions to these folks, they weren't genuine. And that bothers me a lot because I really want to be genuine. I think all of us really do. I had a friend, she always jokes, she's like, you always say you want that. Why don't you just stop wanting it and be genuine? It's true. So I want the authentic soul, my essence, luminosity to be available because it draws out everybody else's soul. But that ego, all it does is knock up against everybody else's ego. And it feels awkward. And then empaths, you empaths, I always commend you because you can feel that. You can feel the ego knocking up against the other ego. How does it feel to function from your soul to another soul? It feels so much better, doesn't it? There's no difficulty. There's no misunderstanding. It reminds me very much of the eighth dimension, and there is an alien species there. And they're not alien to that dimension, but they are not from Earth. And I call them light talkers. They're extremely formless and they can change into anything. And they don't have any concept of good and evil. They don't have any concept of dark and light. They see all things as source. It's a more correct way of seeing reality. And they perceive love in all things. And they function soul to soul. They don't have egos. Just like angels don't have egos. They're just pure light. Basically, they're pure informed light, right? And that's more like what you really are. You are pure informed light, otherwise known as a soul, right? And so functioning that way and getting our mind to be willing to do that. Willingness is key in that now I have more drive, more willingness to be finished with this ego that's distorting everything. It's not enjoyable anymore. I guess I was having fun with my ego up until that moment because it was there. It was still there as much as I've chipped away at it, chipped away at my arrogance and my worthlessness and my victim and my tyrant. But nonetheless, it was still there and it's dysfunctional. It's not the right frequency anymore for, hey, what are we doing? Where are we going from here? We've had a bit of a reprieve since solstice, but dramatic things have occurred in this still arena. And it's a short-lived arena of stillness. A lot of people have checked out during this little week after solstice, including some of my friends, either grandchildren or people's children. And this is very painful. And it is a preview of what happens at the end of every age is a lot of people leave because they're going to come back a lot of the time in a more optimal situation. But who's going to make that situation optimal? It's going to be you and I. And so we need to be prepared to help serve whoever shows up in the temple. What do I mean by that? Let me give you a little story. I had this beautiful session with this young woman, and I said, well, you have the skill set of a priestess. She said, well, what does that mean exactly? And I said, the priestess is the maintainer of the embodiment of wisdom that's been passed down, knowledge and wisdom. Now, she may or may not, or he may or may not know it in their mind, but it needs to be embodied, this wisdom that they bring through, often over many lifetimes. So they know the secrets. They know the secrets of how things work. Like, well, how do you heal someone from afar without ever touching them or seeing them? That's quantum healing. It's one of the ancient ways that have been lost to us through our physical memory because of trauma, but not lost to the souls who dedicated themselves over eons to keep bringing forward the same knowledge, right? So you may be a priest or priestess. You might feel like, well, I know stuff that other people don't know, and I don't know how I know this. I have lots of priestess and priesthood friends who basically say, I have no idea how I know all this, but I'm just rolling with it. Don't resist it. But the secret of the field of self is that it is a temple. The field of reality is a temple. And the priest or priestess is asked to serve whoever shows up in the temple. So, for example, this young woman, I said that this was true. And I said, it could be a drug addict or a dog. And she said, well, that's funny that you say that, because yesterday I had both come into my yard. And I said, well, what happened? And she said, the dog came and he laid down on my porch and I petted him and I loved him. I told him what a good boy he was. He got some love and then he walked away. He left the field. He left the yard. And then the drug addict, he was on meth and he came into the yard and he was really frantic. And he was afraid that I was going to judge him, but I didn't. I sat with him on my front porch and I talked him down through some stuff and gave him some love and told him that he is loved, and I didn't judge him, and he left. And I said, exactly, perfectly done. Fantastic. You served whoever showed up in the temple. Sometimes they stay for a minute. Sometimes they stay for a very long time. But it might be your own child. It might be an animal. It might be a person off the street. Whoever is in your attention is in the temple and needs you to notice them, not to judge them, but to discern from the heart, what can I offer right now? It might be a kind word. It might be healing light. It might be a hug. It might be that you're going to hold their hand. It might be that they have questions. It might be that they need some food, right? Another example of how to walk this world as a king or queen of the universe, which each of you are, a sovereign being, a priest or a priestess, who carries forth memory from the galactic era and beyond this galaxy, into the truth of being now as a human. This is the gift that you have. Each of you, every single one of you, has access to these skills. There is no limitations on what skills you have access to now. Your library card got updated and it says, whole entire universe at my fingertips. Okay? So I landed in the United States. I hadn't been back in 6 months, 7 months. 15 minutes after I land, we go out to this little restaurant in Nashville. We walk into the restaurant and I can feel judgment upon us. And it was intense because in Ecuador, Ecuadorians don't really have that. They don't judge people. It's not part of their culture, but it's part of the United States culture where I was at least. And we sat down, and shortly into our meal, a man walks into the building and he asks the manager for a bowl of soup, which they're preparing at that moment to throw away. And he said, may I have a bowl of soup? And she said no, and she angrily asked him to leave and tried to kick him out. And he got really angry and he said, you're just going to throw all this away. And I'm starving. He's been humbled, and now he's been humiliated. And it was going to turn into a fight. And so my family, we stood up, we intervened, we brought the man to our table, and we bought him dinner, right? What happened? This soul came into the temple. He came into our attention. He came into everyone else's attention in temples that was in that restaurant too. But they've forgotten that their field is a temple. And so we haven't forgotten that. And so we acted as good priests, priestesses, queens and kings of the universe, as good citizens of this planet. And we gave him what he needed. He needed some honor, he needed some support, and he needed food. And we sent him on his way much happier so that he could meet his needs in that moment and know that there are people who have not forgotten. That's you. Now, you may be hungry and needing help, but don't forget, one of the attributes of the queen or king, the priest or the priestess, is that they know how to ask with their humble, open heart for help. I've had to ask for help many, many times. And in those moments that I could give it, I gave it freely with joy because I knew, oh, I'm so glad that now I can give. Now I can give, because in the moment of receiving, I always said, when I'm able to give, I will. I'm going to do that. And I made my life dedicated to making sure that I could give. Maybe it's an email that says, Elizabeth, hold me in the light. Help me heal. My child or grandchild has passed away. My body is hurting. My mind is hurting. I'm being spiritually oppressed. And all I do is put my attention on you, knowing that you are perfect in that moment, in that you've humbled yourself to ask. And therefore you will receive. And what will it be? Will it be physical healing? Perhaps. Will it be more abundance in your life? Maybe. But your job as the receiver, and here's the tricky part, your job as the receiver is to do so without expectation. Here's why. If you expect things, you have narrowed the box from which source can play with your needs and fulfill them. It's much more difficult for your needs to be fulfilled when they are contained by expectation. When you go in without expectation, you've just allowed source to be way more creative, because source is more creative than all of us combined, right? To be way more creative about meeting your needs. Work with that. Really start tackling expectation. Do you expect the world to completely go into full-blown doom? Do you expect your life to continue to fall apart? Do you expect that your needs are going to be met, but you only want them met in this way? Do you expect your in-laws or your family members to be jerks as usual? I went to my brother's wedding, and I have a huge family. I'm the oldest of 7 kids, and my youngest brother got married, and he got married to a big old family too. And so it's like this big, huge, massive party. And a lot of times my siblings, they don't always get along. Who does? But I'm always happy when we get together. And one of my sisters asked, like, how come you're always so happy? Like, what's your secret? And I said, because I don't expect anything. I don't expect everybody to fight, and I don't expect everybody to get along. I'm in the moment. So I'm just kind of hanging out, being really not expecting anything. And I'm much happier. And I can really enjoy our time together then because it's not being distorted by expectation. So as we go forward, we can't build new earth. We can't rebuild all of our systems. We can't become homo luminous, a human of light, if we have expectations about all that. None of us have any clue what new earth is going to look like exactly. It may be that all the buildings stay there and we've just changed the quantum structure of it. That's a possibility. Or maybe we dismantle the whole dang thing and turn it into something completely different. I have no idea. It will unfold in divine timing. And that's extremely real. You cannot do anything outside divine timing. You might have tried, and then often we're shown how very deeply ingrained divine timing truly is. Nothing can happen before or after. It's supposed to. So a lot of times I'll do sessions and somebody might be like, wow, you're booked out for a while. I guess I'll put myself on the calendar. I really want to talk sooner than later, right? And that's totally normal. I can only do so many a week. But we have then a session with that person, and almost every time I hear them say, it's perfect that we met now because a lot of the issues that I had ended up solving themselves in between then and now I'm open for something new. Or it's perfect that we're meeting now because this other crazy event happened right before we meet. And I really need to talk to you about this. So that's how divine timing unfolds. And many visions that people might see or dreams, that if you've had a dream that came true, it's only going to come true in the exact perfect timing that it was supposed to. No time before, no time after, right? This also applies to our spiritual gifts. You can't see anything that you are not meant to see in that moment. Someone comes to me and says, do I have some illness? You might, but I'm not going to see it if you weren't timed perfectly in that moment through source needing to know it. So no one's going to see anything until they're meant to see it. It might not have been time yet. And I want you to trust that. Because if you had known certain things, then certain aspects of your divine timeline may not have unfolded. It all ends up being very perfect. The same with the empath ability. You're not going to feel the things that you're not meant to feel. Most empaths, they feel everything, or they feel that they feel everything because they're often bombarded by it, right? But sometimes things are hidden from you because it wasn't time for that to be addressed or felt, right? I would argue that my closed off heart for so many years could only have opened at the right time, that I wasn't ready for my heart to be open until it was open. We need to navigate this. And how do you do that? You need to process your attachment to time. One of the things I'm noticing coming up in sessions with people, especially right after solstice, is a program of unworthiness that is laced with a program of I don't have enough time. Now, one of my friends asked a question via email, how do we stay inspired? How do we go forward when what we are doing seems to really only have a little blip in the universe and may not mean much or anything at all. Well, that's actually an illusion, because everything that happens to you and everything that you do and everything you think, everything you dream, it's having a dramatic effect on the whole. But it's really hard to see it when you're in it. So how do you stay inspired? Ask your friends, ask people you trust, ask your teachers to help you see where you're at. That way you'll never falter, because you're always going to be seen. I can't see myself very well. I'm a great psychic, but seeing myself, hardest thing to do. And I've made many mistakes assuming that I could see my own self in that situation when I was really not correct at all. And so I asked my friends and my teacher to help me, to see me. Get that regularly. Maybe it's once a quarter that you check in with the people you care about, the people you trust, to see you and say, where do you think I am at in my growth here? That's how you'll stay inspired. That's how you'll get past any weird agendas out there that are trying to influence you. That's how you know if your meditation and your emotional processing are working. That's how you'll continue to find support. Ask to be seen. Or at the very least, ask for someone's attention to be on you so that light helps you to clarify your life. Attention is light. And when it's done by someone who's either diligently working on chipping away their ego or who has succeeded at removing the bulk of it, then that light is very powerful. And light is power, it's nourishment. And it connects you to the truth, which is that all things are light, and there's not a limitation on how much love and light and power someone can have. Power is not a bad thing. Power is light. And when someone is in selfless service, that light is much brighter and much more capable of doing great, grand, miraculous things inside of you and out in the world. That's how important you are. You might not be able to buy a homeless person a meal. You might not be able to even get out of bed. You might not be capable of doing physical things to help out the rebuilding of New Earth. That doesn't matter. Your presence alone. If all you do is simply meditate on your own being part of Source, allowing that love to show you who you are, then you are doing what is needed right now. That is the gift you can give. So meditate, especially now. There's a window. There's a window, and it will get you to these highest dimensions so you can feel them. Then you know what you're shooting for. The most refined, formless sense of being one with this universe and the source of all that light. And here's a cool treat for you. After you played in this light and just really hung out and allowed it to penetrate your reality, I want to invite you to do something that I don't normally invite people to do. But during solstice, this happened to me. Right beforehand, I had been told by one of my guides, who's my teacher's teacher, Rama, and he tends to come to me in dreams, and he'll teach me in dreams. And he came and he said to me, it's time for you to merge with the void. And so I said, great, I'm going to go for it. I know exactly what this is. It's the clear light of existence, right? And the void is this energy or lack of between universes, right? Well, you can actually cause your consciousness, and I have never ever said this publicly. You can cause your consciousness to go outside of the universe. Normally, when I lead people, we hang out on the edge of the universe because the void is pretty freaky and it disturbs people. They don't want to go dip their toe in non-existence. It freaks their ego out. And that's a good thing. Ego doesn't have to come with you. Ego can stay at the edge of the universe with the lawn chair and a margarita and they'll be fine. But take that consciousness, the soul's consciousness, outside the universe. Hang out in non-existence. When you're in the universe, it looks black. And that's why they call it the void, you know. It looks like a black hole, right? But it's not. When you go outside the universe and you're gazing at the multiverse, which looks like stars, that's how many universes there are, endless amount. You start to realize that there's light. You're right? Hanging out outside the universe where it's beyond still. There's nothing there at all. But there is light. And it has no source. And it feels really, really good. It feels so beautiful. There is light that has no source. It's the best way I can describe it. Now, why would we want to go hang out in the void or become one with the universe, right? This is alluding to a quadruple set of what's called ancient templates of wisdom that are very important now for you to embody. You see, when you really embody these 4 qualities, and I've alluded to them over our call, when you embody them, you become more like the source field and less personal, less of the personal self. The story of your personal self may or may not remain interesting in that state, but it does end up becoming very clear that it's part of the whole and that it's really necessary. It's a necessary part of the whole story of this universe and the multiverse. So it grants you a deeper appreciation for being. That's the gift, right? So what are the last 4 templates of wisdom? They're pretty new. They were kind of hidden away until about 2009 when we all figured out that we have global consciousness. It didn't happen before that, but the internet sure helped, to the chagrin of those who created the fake internet. They were like super pissed that we figured out how to tap into collective energy. And I would call that global consciousness. It came online full blown, everybody on the planet in 2009, and then voila, it was like this magical gift got unwrapped. Timelessness, formlessness, the universe containing all things, and the outer universe containing nothing, the void. These 4 can be embodied now. You can become timeless. And the gift of timelessness, which is the divine timing, the gift of timelessness is divine timing. To trust the divine timing, to surrender your worry about the future and the past, and giving you presence back, right? Then we have formlessness. The gift from formlessness is form. To both revel in and enjoy and celebrate form, and to know that it's all formless and to experience both. And then we have the universe containing all things. Timelessness and formlessness take you to experience the universe, because now Your time being yourself now is one with all time. Now your form being yourself is one with all form. Now you can actually be what you really are, the universe, and feel it and not be disturbed by it, because the personal self then is not existing as the boundary between you and the universe anymore. And then that's when you take that leap into the void. And what is more powerful than light without a source? I really don't know, because I'd never seen it before. And now I'm just steeping in it. And it brings me joy that I cannot describe. It makes everything seem so perfect, even when all of these terrible things are happening. I'm aware of them. I'm putting my attention on some of these things, these terrible things that are occurring on our planet. And they have for eons, but they've been ramped up to some scales, man, that I'm not so sure have ever existed before, right? They need our attention. All these things. You don't need to know exactly what terrible things are happening, but you need to know that they are happening in the field and that you're not separate from them. And as you put your attention on this dense, dark stuff, what it does is it opens it up. Your attention alone is that powerful. What if we were all doing it together? We kind of do when we build pillars of light each month. And we're going to build one for sure. And I have some very clear ideas about who needs our help at the moment and where we're going to build it. And it's always surprising, but I'm open and I notice these things and they'll come into my awareness, and then I'll hear it, I'll feel it, I'll know that Source wants this to happen. And so it just unfolds, it manifests on its own. And it creates what is needed. And we do it together. So I've thrown a lot of esoteric stuff at you, and some of it's difficult to wrap our brains around, so don't. If it doesn't make sense, don't worry. The brain's often brain mind's the last one to catch up a lot of the time, if you're doing it right. Don't do it top down. Let your gut and your heart notice what I've been talking about and feel it first. Then your brain will get it and catch up along the way. And I've noticed that over time because I'm such a heady person. I'm very mental. And it's how I got through my trauma, was to be super smart. Well, it did me no service in the attempt of getting rid of my ego. So you go from the bottom up. Let your gut and your heart notice how it feels first. And then your brain will make sense of these things. I've tried to give you some visuals to help out. But some of these things, again, there's nothing to see. So I can only take you into and project to you what I feel and hope that you can tap into it too. And that you can notice this gateway that's opened for you. Again, I don't know how long it will be open, but it's stayed open now for a good solid week. And I don't think it's going anywhere quickly. The other thing that's occurred that I wanted to let you know about, because I'm here for the humans, but not everybody's here for the humans. Some folks are here for the earth herself. Some folks are here for animals, plants. Some folks are here for the fairy kingdom. A lot of different reasons why we came. No one reason's better than another. And so my teacher is here for the earth. She has a very intimate connection to the earth. And she said, it's time to heal. And that's a message I have for you. If it wasn't time before, if you were struggling with healing before, it's time to heal now. And the earth is ready too, and she's going to be doing some healing. And we can either go along with it or not. But I would say that resisting it would be a bad idea. Because if you resist the earth healing, then you're resisting your own healing, right? Because we're all merged at this point. We're living on her body with her explicit desire that we come along for the ride. It's time to heal. And I keep having to tell myself that. And I notice that there's a part of me who says, are you sure? I don't know if I can really heal. That's the part of me that's been disappointed by no results when I've struggled to heal. We all have this. And many of us have been so frustrated by the lack of results that now the frustration has completely quashed all of our hope and our trust. Let it go. That particular lens is a killer. It destroys your connection. It distorts what healing is constantly available to you. There is no limitations on how much love and healing there is available to you. It's a terrible program we've been taught. Oh, there's only a limited amount of love that I have. No. That's not possible. There is no opposite to love because the entire universe is literally quantumly, structurally made of it. It is the container of all things. There's not a limit. Furthermore, when we get stingy with our energy and our love because we're afraid that we will get burned out, right? You've had very little experience with getting your cup filled by perhaps Divine Mother and Father who were in the form of your parents who didn't necessarily seem so divine while you were growing up, right? Or from our partners, maybe you've had some bad relationships that were never reciprocal but always codependent, or things like that will definitely cause our idea about how to heal to distort. No more. You need to be willing to take that lens of frustration about your life and the lack of results and let it go, because now is a new day, my friends. We just got through summer solstice, the first solstice after the end of the experiment. The first solstice after the end of the experiment, a very gentle but powerful solstice, to show us that we indeed are still part of a journey with each other and the planet and all living things on top of it and inside of it. That we are still part of a solar system and a galaxy that is alive and thoughtful. And that your activities are incredibly effective at affecting everything else because you're entangled, you're one. You're one with all these things. That clarity is available to you now. Take away the lens of frustration about not getting what you've been needing or wanting. Take it away and give it away. Give it to Source and say, Source, do with this incredible amount of energy that I've been hanging on to, this frustration, which is very powerful. Do with this as you wish. Turn it into a gift. Give it away so Source can do something better with it. Because all it's done for you is blinded you to divine timing, to the formless being that you are, to the access to the universe that you have. And I understand that when we don't get the results that we've been working so hard for so long, especially those of you who've been working on your trauma for eons and eons, right? But I'm urging you, because that field, that lens of frustration is distorting the light that's coming from you, that's trying to reach out to all these people and animals in the earth that need that light really bad right now. Your temple has been closed off by your own regrets and your own frustration. Open the temple. Open the temple. It's time. It's time to open so that healing can happen. I have no idea exactly how it's going to look, but what a wonderful feeling, an idea that if we all had our open temples and they merged into one great temple, this is what elevates us to this state of selfless service that elevates us to become Homo luminous, the humans of light, who are all one in that light, whose temples all give a different kind of beautiful, unique nourishment from your essence. There's only one of you in this universe. There's only one form of consciousness that is you. If you took that away and erased it, the universe would collapse. I want you to understand this. The universe would collapse without that presence. Does it go away when you die? No. No, of course not. That's how powerful your presence is, your consciousness. But if you took that away, then our universe would not exist. If that's all you needed to hear today, then good. Take it to heart. Open the temple. Be that consciousness that is unique in this universe. Open the temple and all of it will flood forth through you and merge with everyone else's light so that we can create an awakened species who is deeply conscious of who they truly are and can function from there, reclaiming our sovereign seat at the galactic table. They still aren't so sure we've earned it yet, folks. It's time to get our temples open. That's what it's going to take for consent, compassion, and love to be shared with the galactics who have forgotten much of what those are about or never understood it in the first place. But that's the gift we're going to bring to that table when we come in to prove that we have earned our place at the galactic table, no longer to be a slave race ever again. That's what we're working towards right now. That's your part. Open your heart. Open your heart. Meditate on the formless, refined light that is available right now. Be willing to be timeless, formless. Be willing to be the universe. And be willing to be so clear that you can finally perceive the truth, which is that it was you all along, the source of all the light. That's you. And then you can come play with me out in the void where there is no source to the light. It's just pure, beautiful, amazing light. Nothing else. And I want that for all of us. It's there at our fingertips. It's been given to us. It's a gift. All right. Yeah, I would like to say that's true. Returning to Eden is really what's happened. Good. Okay, so all right. I'm kind of backing up here to look at some of these comments, just noticing everyone. Hello to everybody. Good. So, oh, very glad to support you, Magda. I'm very glad that you're enjoying the talks that we do. Good stuff. So Magda has a good question. What about those folks who clearly need help from you, right? But they're directing aggression to you. Well, here's a quick tool that'll help solve the problem pretty fast, okay? And I've done a lot of training in compassionate communication and dealing with aggressive situations that need to be taken down a notch, right? Remember not to let your ego react first, okay? So here we have somebody aggressive to you, and it could be about anything, right? It could be politics, it could be money, it could be that they're drunk or on drugs, or who knows, right? Maybe they're your family member. Whoever's in the field, right? They've come into the temple, they need attention. Somebody's angry. Notice your ego is going to want to react and protect itself. That's normal. But you're going to need to step aside from that and act as the soul in charge. And that's tough because you need to notice your own reactions without reacting. Okay? Then the next thing you do is listen very carefully to what they're saying to you. And when they're finished, or there's a gap in the conversation or the rant or whatever's happening, you're going to want to express what they have said exactly back to them. It's called mirroring. So you need to mirror an exact replica of what they've just said. I hear you. I hear that you're really angry about me parking here in this particular spot. I hear you. I hear that you're really angry at me about this political article I posted. I hear you. I hear that you're angry about blank, right? Because that's the main emotion going on. Anger is explosive and can blind people. And so you need to be able to let the explosion move on through and not trigger a reactive energetic, which is hard to do. This takes practice. This is why people do this professionally, right? But when that happens, you're just going to mirror it back to them and then keep mirroring. Maybe they're not done. Maybe they have some more ranting to do. It's okay. Let them do it. Because what it's going to do is it's going to peter out. The fuel of the aggression is going to start to peter out. It's going to get slower. You're going to notice it. And then mirror that fully back to them. And when they finally feel heard, they're going to take a deep breath and their shoulders might go down, right? Maybe they uncross their arms. They'll usually breathe. That's a clue that now it's okay for you to ask, may I share with you a solution, or may I share with you my feelings? May I share with you what I think? Now, that's consent. They might not be ready to hear what you think. So if they say no, then you're going to have to respect that. And that might be something that can happen later, right? And if they say yes, then you're going to share without blaming. Now, they may have said, you made me feel this, you did this, whatever, right? But don't do that. Say, I feel these things. I feel this way. These are your feelings. No one can make you feel anything. And so when you own them, the other person's not going to react as aggressively as they would if you started blaming them. But remember to leave out of your words the word but. I love you, but. I'm sorry, but. leave it out. Has no place in dealing with taking dramatic situations down a notch. Never say but or and or whatever. It negates all the good stuff and it negates people's feelings. So it's really key to make sure that you leave that out of your languaging. But remember, mirroring can do a lot of miracles. It can cause people to feel very seen and heard, and then begin to trust that they can actually get beyond the difficult feelings they're feeling. But at no point should you allow anyone in those situations to physically harm you. If that's the case, get out of there really quick. Don't even wait around for anything more to unfold. Don't wait around for an I'm sorry. Get out of that. That's destructive. And it's not okay for them to end up playing out any sort of physical aggression or violent aggression that will end up causing harm beyond repair. Get right out of there. That's something that's really important. We have boundaries. And if you need to get a mediator, then do so. Have someone else step in who's a neutral party. So again, this takes practice, and there's a million different scenarios, and they're all different. So just kind of consider this tool and see if it helps you as things move forward. It really works quite well with little tiffs and little issues and things, and can work extremely well for big ones too. All right, good. Good. So Sylvia is pointing out, when you ask, for me, it's not just about expectations, but allowing, not resisting, whatever wants to come in to help. So releasing resistance is always going to be a key part of that, yes. So there's 4 structures to ego. Expectations are one of them. Attachment, you might be attached to an outcome, which is a bit different than expecting things, but they're related, right? Attachments are going to block you. Then, of course, we have any kind of judgment. Judgment is the opposite of discernment. Judgment is your discernment getting run through your expectations, attachments, and resistance and your trauma. Okay, and then, of course, resistance is part of ego. Ego doesn't want to dissolve into oneness. Ego's quite happy being nice and structured and having lots of expectations, ideas, and hanging on to the story, hanging on to the trauma, because that's how it's got you through living through the matrix jail that we've been trying to dismantle from the inside out. It helped us survive through the patriarchy and through the oligarchies, right? But now it's time for that to go, because there's empowerment, which is your next step. And you can't feel empowered when you're in resistance, or when you're expecting or judging or attached. You can't feel empowered when you're in that. So beautiful, very smart and important. So Janine's asking about seeing light. When you have your eyes closed, can you see more light than when your eyes were open? No. For me, my third eye is open all the time. So even when I do shut my eyes, I can still see my whole room, for example. So if Source decides that my eyeballs aren't going to work one day, I'll probably get by just fine. It's just the way my third eye works. So I'm not sure if this is the case for other people, but no, when I'm perceiving the light without a source, or the universal light of Source, I can perceive it in the same way as I would with my eyes open or not. There's no point in time where it's more or less. So that's a cool question. Might help you when you're doing your seeing stuff too, to know that, hey, there is a way to see where there's nothing different than when your eyes are open, and you can still have access to all this universal light while grocery shopping, for example. Totally a thing. Very good. Very good. So I'm not sure, Milena, about the avatars. So Milena's asking about something Richard Rudd said, that there are always 5 avatars present on the earth at any given moment, and they form a unified force field that steers the balance of humanity rather than destruction towards evolution. Yeah, well, I would actually say at the moment we're all being called, and this is why I kept calling you priests and priestesses of the temple, kings and queens of the universe. We're being called to become this, which Richard Rudd is alluding to, that there was only ever a certain amount before. Now I believe this is what the human race is becoming. I wouldn't call them avatars so much as more beings of more light. DNA that's going to hold more light, right? A conscious mind that holds and maintains and radiates more light. When someone's 100% seeing, feeling, knowing, radiating, and embodied in their light, in the light that comes from source through them, then they become what Richard Rudd may call an avatar. Well, that's exactly what we're headed towards. So there's not going to be just 5 anymore. And why would we need to do that? Well, there's changes coming. I don't know exactly when, but there are solar and galactic changes coming, including a mini nova, which has been known for ages as a scientific fact. And if we can actually combine our fields into one temple of light, the real internet, then we can actually support the electromagnetic field of our own planet. There is enough of us to be able to support that field so that things won't be as harmed by these regular catastrophic 13,000 year event cycles. Every 13,000 years, a big, huge catastrophe happens, the end of an age. A lot of lives are often lost. And while certain things were going on with certain ages, now we're in one and we have more people on the planet than ever before. So what are we going to do about it? We're getting the burst of a lifetime of light from the sun coming soon. Again, I don't know exactly when, within the next decade. And this burst of light, can we use it? Yeah, we can totally use this. This is for us to literally rocket our evolution into something new, which I keep calling Homo Luminous, not only because it sounds cool, but because a lot of these other seers like me have seen this. And this is the name they've been giving it too. So it's not mine. I didn't coin it. I don't know who did, but when I heard it, I'm like, well, yeah, that's exactly what I see. So we're going to use it. We can use this light. It doesn't have to hurt us or harm us. It's the other way around. We're being asked by Earth to finally get with the program and become one with her field and each other's. Not the fake internet. The fake internet is a poor, poor copy for what is really happening right now. And many of the new skill sets that I'm seeing turn on in people have mainly to do with connecting to this field of conscious light that will influence our evolution very deeply. Whether you're seeing things more clearly now or seeing things maybe you don't even want to see. Some of it can be quite scary. I understand. It's part of the whole. It's part of what needs to be seen. Maybe you're seeing more stuff now. Maybe you're feeling more. Maybe your heart's blown open and now you can feel every little freaking thing. And it's hard. Maybe your dreams are becoming prophetic. Maybe there's a whole combo of skills that's coming in that wants to be through you and new. And it's confusing because you're remembering things that your soul knows and seeing stuff and knowing things that you didn't know before suddenly. This is perfectly normal at the moment. You know what the top question is I get from people in sessions? Almost everyone comes to me and says, I think I might be going crazy. And I say, that's what the past 9,000 people asked me too, if they were going crazy. So no, you're not. No, this is called evolution, punctuated equilibrium. It's not happening slowly now. Now it's happening in big bursts. So no, just whispering to you, you're not crazy. You're part of a team. You're part of a group of people who actually are really finally being the human they always wanted to be. And it's scary because you might be the only one in your household or your neighborhood or maybe even your whole town. But what if that was why you had to be there? To be the awakened one who let that light move through to help elevate your family or your neighborhood or your town. That's true too. But you're not alone and you're not crazy. I know it feels like it. I know it feels like it because it's new and it's different. But it's perfect and it's in divine timing. It's right on the money. You got it. You're here. You're doing this. Good. Very, very good. Okay. So Roots is asking, what about beings from the future and our future selves? I have kind of had like a little bit of experience with that, Roots, but not a lot. And I think we tend to put a little too much attention on the future stuff, like people coming from the future and things. It's distracting. It's distracting from what's happening right now. Like, if that's all happening and it's supposed to in divine timing, then it's happening. I find like putting my attention on the future or future beings or future selves kind of leaks energy. It's not that you're worrying about the future in that case, but that curiosity can bring your attention away from the now, where all the juicy action's happening. So I've had more experiences interfacing with my past selves who've shown up in different ways. So I think my message around that would simply be, that's okay to be curious about these things, but don't let it distract you for too long. Always bring it back to the moment and maintain your connection to your body and its electromagnetic connection to the earth. You need to be barefooted on the planet right now. You know, that's why I'm kind of saying like right now, these are the things that are happening. Right now is what we need to be focused on. Because the future stuff, you'll get lots of glimpses and fractals because that's how it works. There's a trillion different timelines and they all go to the same place. So whatever's going on, don't worry. It all goes to the same place, back to source. And that's the truth. Okay. Yeah, I haven't been asked that question, so thanks for asking a different question. That's cool. Yeah, so Sophia's asking, how do you discern when you're sick from infection or you're in resistance? Well, resistance, it's really impossible to discern when you're in resistance. So that's partly how you're going to know that you're in resistance, is that you can't discern anything and you feel blocked. But then you can notice it because it's painful. You feel stuck and yucky when you're in resistance. So you got to process the resistance and then try again to discern from there. When you're sick, you're being influenced by your immune system and by whatever you're sick from. And so your attention then should be on discussing in detail with the illness itself why it's shown up and what it's trying to tell you. So if you're trying to discern this thing over here, but you're sick, then it means that this thing over here needs to wait. Then you need to discern, what is this illness trying to tell you? They're intelligent. You're full of all this stuff that is deeply intelligent. It doesn't just show up out of nowhere. I'm always fascinated that people think that. It's intelligent, and in divine timing, it's showing up to try to tell you something. So you need to listen. You need to discern what the sickness is trying to tell you first. And when that happens, you'll find that you'll heal. And it might be a long thing. Maybe it's got a lot to say. Maybe it's a short thing. I've been really, really super sick and been able to discern what the sickness was saying and was able to find myself healed within 24 hours of major illness. So there is a way for you to get through that and then to go look again at whatever else you're trying to discern. So that's the method I take. Whatever's going on, you need to address that first before you try looking at anything else. It's right there in front of you what you need to look at. Good. So Diane's saying, this week I had a rude awakening out of the matrix of government benefit dependence, and the block that was released towards this sovereignty was revealed to be the energy of deserving. And now I know that energy. Absolutely. So that's key. That's one of the big programs that was showing up over this past month. I don't deserve this. And it's part of that human hate program, I like to talk about. The human hate program that literally causes us to self-destruct with all sorts of issues and illnesses. And that, do I deserve this? I don't deserve this energy is right in line with that. Because suddenly when you remove that whole question and you are the I am presence, there is no question of deserving at all. The priest or priestess is the temple. The king or queen is the throne room. How can a place, which you are, how can a place deserve or not deserve? It can't. It is. Therefore, it will receive and it will give because of existence itself. So that question doesn't even show up anymore when you stand in your power and decide to be an empowered human. And that's something we decide to do. And then you get to be a creator being, and you're creating and creating and creating. So there's these 3 stages. You come in and you're awakening, right? And then you realize, hang on a second, this whole thing about deserving and stuff is not even relevant. And then you become a creator, right? And you're creating and you're really learning about all the crap you create and all the good stuff you create, right? But then there's another stage called remembering. And as you're fully accepting your empowered creator self, you're going to start remembering more. And that's really cool because then you feel expanded, you feel one with the universe. And that's so special. It's one of the best parts of this awakening process. My apologies. It started to rain and I need to shut my doors so it won't be too loud. So just one moment. All right, back to the fun. Okay, so looking at questions some more here. Oh, Janine says, I hope the last aspect of your ego that you release is your personality. Thank you. That's very cool. Yeah, I think if I go into full Oracle self and I don't have any personality at all, it will be too boring and no one would like to hang out. So good. All right. So Magda says, could you explain a little bit about your understanding of where this human hate program originated from? Yes, I can very well do that. So here we have this program. Where did it show up? Well, I've taught a few classes about the history of the Earth, and there's one that's available, or two, I believe, that's available on my website for pretty cheap, because I try to make certain talks really affordable. But without going into a whole lecture about the whole history of the Earth, the basic origin came early on during that first era of very long-lived humans, the very first humans that came to Earth. There was much more than two, and they were all placed as couples along the Nilotic Meridian. But they had other people with them too, in order to maintain genetic diversity, which is why when Cain left Adam and Eve and his family, he was banished, right, for killing Abel. Why Cain was able to go to a city that already existed, because there was a lot more people on the earth than it seems. Well, during that era of Adam and Eve, and they weren't the only ones who got messed with. That's just the story that everybody clung to. But Adam and Eve, who were they addressed by? They say it was Satan, but it actually came in the form of a snake, which is the clue you needed. Right? So we're talking about Draco. And Draco has such a very sad history because they used to be a very noble species. And they separated into two. Now we have the dragons, which went to a very high dimension and stayed there, and the Draco, which stayed in the 3D, and they cannot navigate past the 3D. They're stuck there. They have no emotional bodies. It's very, very different and a long, sad story. But they got obsessed with the power over dynamic. Now, what was the apple? I was just telling my friend this the other day, because I said, hidden in these stories are the ancient stories are the truth, but you need to be able to perceive it through the framework of the story. It wasn't an apple at all. What was the tree of knowledge? It wasn't a tree. It was a whole history. When the very first experiment here was begun, they started out with DNA that had no memory, gifted by the Lyrans, right? Not the Lyrians, the cat people, the Lyrans who created DNA in the Homo sapien form, okay? The Lyrans created this so that they could both remember the memories that they lived through these bodies, but so they could also access all 12 dimensions at once. That was the purpose of DNA. Well, they had a clean slate, because all these galactic friends of ours, Pleiadians, Sirians, everybody who's had a hand in the experiment here on Gaia, they said, well, we don't really want to be in bodies where we remember all of our galactic history, where we've been at war with the Draco and other beings for so long, and the galactic wars have been horrible. And we've destroyed planets, and all this suffering. We don't want to remember this. And so the Lyran said, well, we happen to have a blank slate here, DNA with no memory. And so they said, yeah, but we don't really want to start over and like have to relearn how to talk and relearn how to function. And so what if we distilled down all of our trauma into the ancient templates of wisdom, into templates of wisdom that were distilled from our great grand memory of many billions of years of drama? What did we learn? So we're going to add this wisdom in so we can function in these brand new Homo sapien bodies on Gaia, right? So they distilled it down. They created 90 ancient templates of wisdom. They merged it into the memory of this DNA. Now you have the Homo sapien as you know it, and voila, you bring it into the experience of Gaia. Well, in the meantime, Draco's always wanted to have full access and control over DNA, because DNA and the combo of a soul and DNA is extremely powerful, and they're obsessed with harnessing power, right? Never usually of their own creation, but of stuff they've pirated and stolen. It's their nature, right? Again, a long, sad history behind that. We can still have compassion for these folks. That being said, they came in and they said, Eve, among many of the people they were dealing with, Eve, don't you wonder what this whole body of knowledge, this tree of knowledge really is all about? Why would they hold back a whole body of knowledge from you when you're supposed to be the pinnacle of creation, right? Very clever, very clever. And Eve, being ignorant in this body, not having any memory of the galactic memory, was like, well, yeah, you're right. And instead of going straight to source or the council and asking about it, she was brash and made a quick decision to take a bite of that history. And that bite was a specific bite. It was a genetic it was a program, a genetic program that made her ashamed of our galactic history. She didn't just become ashamed of being human or naked. She became ashamed because she got a teeny little piece. Probably the worst one, right? Probably the worst part of the history. She got a teeny little piece and suddenly was ashamed. That's where the human hate program comes in. Well, now I feel guilty for being part of this. Now I feel bad because I was created by world destroyers, when that was just a teeny tiny little sliver of the truth of that whole bazillion-year-long galactic history. That's where it comes from. And that's what started the whole corruption of our incredible experiment here. Now, to be fair, it was probably a mistake to withhold all that information and not offer it in some capacity, because it created distrust between those who were experiencing this new human experience and then those who had been working to maintain a pristine experiment. Nonetheless, the experiment is over now, folks. And you are free. And you are free to remember as much as you want about our galactic history. And many of you do. And many of you have been remembering. And there's no holds barred anymore. The lesson has been learned. Corruption's always going to show up, but the more information we have, the better. Because now we can have compassion. And we end wars with compassion. We end wars with consent. We end the galactic war with love. And those of us who have been treated like slaves will end up becoming one of the greatest species that has ever existed in this galaxy because we will show how slavery can end from the inside out. And that's you. You're doing that. You're cleaning up the mess of the past million years of what has occurred and the corruption of the experiment and its repercussions. We're the crew. We're the team that's going to take it to the next level. So that's my answer of what is going on. Where did it originate from? Now you know. All right, so Haman is wondering about merging into these other dimensions that are available, because these bodies are capable of being one with all 12 dimensions all at once. And it has to do with the heart. It's not a complicated process. It does take willingness. And you want to go slowly. The fourth and fifth dimension, don't forget about the first and second one. The first and second dimension are even closer to source. We're always thinking we're going higher. It's not how it works. It's more like you're making room for it. It's one big, huge room, all 12 dimensions. You're making room for it when you shift trauma. But be willing to merge with the first and second one first. And then go to the fourth because you're used to the third, but go to the fourth and the fifth. How do you do that? Well, I've promised to teach a class about the dimensions, and I didn't teach a class in May or June. So I'm going to teach a class this month, coming up in July, about the dimensions and how to merge with them. So I've got you covered on this. I won't be able to answer you fully, but I'll walk you through it in the ways that I've been taught how to do that and what benefit they have for us to do so, what I've experienced, so that you can find your own experience. Everyone's going to experience it differently, but it helps to hear about how someone else did that and how much easier it seems than it seems to do so. Merging with the dimensions is a really great thing to shoot for right now because it gives you access to collective consciousness and that sense of perfection that helps things really roll along more perfectly in your life and in the lives around you. So you can heal. Good. So let's do a few more questions. Anything else coming up for you right now? Daki says, could you say something that distinguishes the king-queen image as progressed or evolved away from the power over? Well, I don't see it that way anymore because I've seen people who have attained it. So let's give you an idea of someone who's attained it. Amma the hugging saint. Her field is sovereign. It's really big. People come in droves, stadiums full, to be in that field. Does that mean she has power over people? If she does, it's simply because they gave it to her, right? And that has to do with their ego rather than what Amma's offering. So any lens of power over given to someone who's attained a sovereign state like that is not the issue of the sovereign themselves. Remember that. When we give people power over us, you are acting as a creator being. And so if you would like to modify the visual of the king or queen for yourself inside of you, what kind of king or queen are you? Perhaps you're more like the Hierophant, the embodiment of wisdom, right? Or perhaps you're more angelic in that you want to just radiate light. You don't need a throne room. Whatever feels best for you to help you to navigate the world in such a way that keeps your ego from trying to come in and have power over anybody, right? But whether or not someone else sees it like that, it's not up to you. They may see you and decide that you have power over them. That's not something that you, as a sovereign being, have to do with. But you can walk them through it if you want to and remind them that they're sovereign too. But because of trauma and the distortion of this trauma and ego, a lot of people with a lot of power, which is simply light, may be perceived as having power over by those who have not reached their sovereign self yet. Again, there's a certain amount of creative control you have over your situation, and to be aware that someone is using their lens of trauma or ego to distort what you're sharing with them, that's only for you to simply point out and let them handle it from there. Give them the tools they need, but otherwise, you be you. And you get to look as a sovereign however you want. You can look like a classic queen on a throne or simply just a beautiful star that radiates light. The job is the same. Okay. So just kind of scrolling through here. Yeah, so some people have noticed kind of, and the issue around us getting along, people fighting, husbands and wives fighting, family members fighting. You know, notice this, track this, Hilda. Hilda's noticing this. Track this. Tracking is a mystical term. Kind of rise yourself above it. I call it zooming out, zoom out a bit above all this stuff and really track it. You're going to notice it has patterns. It'll flow. So you'll have this little reprieve where everybody stops fighting for a minute. And then it'll suddenly like be really busy where everybody's fighting. And then it'll stop. Well, these things happen in cycles, and it's because consciousness is moving. So consciousness comes in and it has waves, at the moment, and it's not stopping. At the moment, we're in a bit of a reprieve. It's longer than usual. Usually it's a few days, but it's been over a week now. But you'll feel it. You'll feel like, oh, there's waves coming. And right now, they come from two different directions at once. They're coming from human consciousness and earth consciousness all at once. And then, of course, you've got that's going to come in and it's going to toss stuff up more than usual. Like last year, we'd come in and we'd get this big wave and then crash. And then you can surf the wave, and then there's this reprieve, and it might be longer. Now it's shortened a whole lot. So now we've got big waves, and it makes it even messier. No wonder everybody's freaking out and fighting. That sounds like a normal situation for somebody who's really not aware of what's going on. But you need to learn how to surf this stuff. You got to become a surfer to be able to surf and navigate consciousness. When it shows up, it's an opportunity, this argument in front of you. It's showing up. It's an opportunity for you to rise up above your ego and trauma and say, I am a soul. I have co-created this argument. What am I going to do about it? From my soul's perspective. Well, maybe I'll do some mirroring. Maybe I'll really practice my listening right now. Maybe I need to step away from this. But you'll be able to discern better because you're not going to be acting in reaction where your ego is, who's trying to protect you. You don't need that. Because the person in front of you, Hilda, whether it be your husband or some grumpy neighbor or a barky dog or whatever, that's not a different person. That's you. You're not separate from them. That's what the soul in charge will always see. Why is this part of me feeling this way, wanting to merge soul to soul, drawing someone's soul out? That's what the soul naturally does. It says, wait, you're made of light. I'm made of light. We are the same light. Let's not fight. Let's find a way to solve this together because we're not separate. Keep practicing, especially when the fight is going on. You want to zoom out and really say, what's really happening here? It's not really me and my husband fighting. That's the illusion. It's two souls who are creating a situation so we can learn how to do this whole oneness thing. That's why it's going on. And that's why when things are tossed up, it seems to happen more than usual because it's more opportunities for your soul to start surfing this stuff so that you're actually navigating consciousness into a state of deeper and deeper oneness. That's the point. Now, it sounds impractical, but really give it a try. Take your consciousness out of a difficult situation and zoom out and look at it from above like a bird. And you'll see what I mean. You'll perceive or at least feel the difference. I'm not Elizabeth fighting with this person. I'm source, I'm light. And this is an opportunity, not a problem. That's the truth. Okay, good. All right, so we need to build our pillar of light, folks. And I want to tell you about, who we're going to do it for. It's for the children of Earth. And I want to make sure there's no big questions at the moment, and it looks good. So we need to build this pillar for the children of Earth, and here's why. Many of them are being pressured. When I say children, I mean all the way up to about 20 years old. So my teenage son, he's included in this. He's 18. Anyone from the age of newborn or in utero to 20 right now needs help because they're being pressured right now to check out. And this is really key because we really need these guys. Now, some of them are going to check out whether we like it or not because they're going to come back into better bodies, more optimal bodies. Some of the bodies that, hey, my body, I got into my body knowing full well it wasn't the optimal body. But boy, have I learned a lot and a lot more compassion because of my pain. So some of the bodies that these souls have been trying to get into over the past year or the past 20 years have been less than optimal. And so a lot of them are going to check out. And it's extremely painful to lose our young ones. And it's happening at a greater rate than usual at the moment. So what we're doing isn't trying to stop what is divinely timed or divinely asked for. What we're trying to do is to make sure that those who might be trying to take their own lives through suicide can be given the light that they need to know what their real choices are, so that they don't feel like the only way out of their trap is to kill themselves. That's what I'm talking about. And some of them are doing it very slowly, and some of them are doing it really quickly and violently. But this needs to be clarified. We need to shine light on this. And as the essence of luminosity, it's my duty to put my attention on this so that it can be revealed what the truth really is. And the truth is that they're all getting pressured to do this. And hey, I come from a generation where, self-hatred and self-mutilation and self-suicide was all part and parcel of the culture. I listened to crazy dark music that encouraged all of that for sure in high school. I dressed like a goth. I know it sounds odd, but this is that human hate program running, but in an especially subtle way that says, you don't matter, nothing matters. It's very nihilistic. And the young people are getting caught into it because of the social media and because of their cell phones and the AI. Who's got the agenda of definitely lessening the populace on the planet instead of the human love program? It's been the human hate program, right? So this is kind of full-blown targeting at the moment more than ever. All the young people of Earth, not just people in the United States. How do I know this? Well, one of the things that came into my attention recently, and I let things flow through, I don't really seek it out, was what they call the zombie children of Nairobi. And this is where we're going to build our pillar, is right smack in the ghetto of Nairobi, okay? The zombie children of Nairobi, who are so destitute and so alone that now they only get through their stress and hunger by having become addicted to sniffing industrial glue and jet fuel. You can imagine why they call them zombie children. This is not okay with me. I'm not okay with this. I don't consent to our children living like this. These are not just Nairobi's children, these are our children. And these are not the only children who are going through this. We could look at any border, we could look at any country right now on this planet, and we will find that they are being bombarded. The young ones are especially being bombarded with this slow self-destruction of human hate. Enough. And it will be us who stand up to all of this, especially this programming, and say, enough. That's what a sovereign says. That's what a priest or priestess says. Enough. Not in this temple. In this temple, we nurture, we heal, we create life, we preserve it, we allow natural destruction to occur. We celebrate the laws of nature. This is not part of the laws of nature. So what is this? It's a frequency that's killing people slowly. It's been killing us slowly until we wake up and say, that's not my voice in my head. That is not me. I do not desire to destroy myself. This is not me. This is coming from somewhere else. It's a frequency. It's oppression. It's the last vestige of the Matrix jail as they've got on their loudspeakers, as we're walking away from the jail, they've got on their loudspeakers, you are worthless. You don't deserve anything. You should just die. Sound familiar? It's war against your sovereign mental truth. And we will win wars with compassion, with love, with consent. Part of that is saying no. I stand in my sovereign self, and no, I do not consent to being told this untruth. It is not real. And then it is neutralized. It can't affect you. Does it mean you won't feel it? No, you'll feel it. It's been a tactic for a long time. A lot of us have fallen for it, me included. I tried to hurt myself and commit suicide as a teenager. And if I had succeeded, I wouldn't be here today with you. That's how important this is. All those people could very well be the ones who help save us in the long run when we need extra help too, right? So let's help. Let's help. We can do it together now. Let's go to Nairobi. Enough, right? Who's doing the pressuring? Well, there's a lot of people involved, a lot of different beings and people involved in this corrupted situation, often who have been promised unrealistic power over everybody, right? Or promised immortal life, or promised things that are very false. Because keeping Earth as a prison planet would be to the benefit of, a select group of beings. So that's who's putting the pressure on, okay? But that's not where we're putting our attention. We don't need to worry about them. I say Gaia has that covered. Gaia has that covered. Trust that the Earth has had enough too. But what can we do? We can play a very important support role to bring in all this light. And by golly, let's do it now, because here we're at the time after the solstice with this window of pure light that I was alluding to. The brightest lights. That's what we're going to use. So let's go to Nairobi. Don't worry about where it is. Just imagine it. Imagine this big ghetto where all these young people are trapped in this cycle of addiction and self-hatred and violence, right? And just feel the presence of all the young people on this planet who might be confused, who might feel like they're going crazy, who might feel like they really don't like themselves right now. And all the young people who aren't confused, who are working really hard at trying to be in their power. All the young people, we want to support them all equally. Just feel their presence, because they're going to be the ones who help rebuild this planet. And we're going to guide them and teach them how to do that. But they will be the ones who implement it. We need them. And also, I want to include all the souls, all the young souls who have left, whether through tragedy, accident, suicide, or murder, all the young souls who have needed to leave over the past year, the past couple of years, okay? I'm going to include them too, because their presence is available as well. So here we are in Nairobi. Let's ground ourselves with an energy from our gut that we'll use as our foundation for our pillar of light. Just come together in a big circle. Just imagine it to be so. And let's allow this light to show up. What is the quality of light in the gut at the moment? Right now, it's just this very pure, very clear message. You are important. You are loved. I just want you to feel the message in your gut. And then with a deep breath, let's project it to the foundation of our pillar of light here in the ghettos of Nairobi now. Wow. So what I saw was very, very bright golden light, very bright, and it splashed like this big spilling out of all this pure, pure light energy, just splashing and creating a refreshing feeling. Can you imagine how little many of these young people have been told? You are important. You are loved. Let's refresh them. Let's fill their cup with this energy. Let it be available. A beautiful, fresh filling of their cup. You are loved and important. Beautiful. All right, now come up into the heart, and we're going to add the heart of our pillar here together. And the message I hear for them is, be strong. You are human. It's the opposite of the human hate program that says, you are worthless because you are human. It's the opposite. Be strong. Be strong. Have faith. You are human. You are human. You're so much more important and powerful and amazing and beautiful than you ever realized. Believe this now. Be strong. You are human. Pull this up in your heart and project it to the center of our group, at the center of our pillar, with a deep breath now. Yeah, it's like a party. We just unleashed the party pack. Be strong. You are human. It's a party. It's a celebration. Yeah, I'm human, man. This is amazing. We can really have some fun. Being human is so spectacular. That's what I'm here to do. I'm here to cheer you on and say, yes, we're human. Let's do this. That's how much I love humans. It's how much I love being human. Because now I know. And that's what we're doing with our heart. Now you know, young people. Be strong. You are human. Celebrate. What a wonderful message. Absolutely beautiful. Rainbow light. Good. All right. Come through into the third eye and crown. Another powerful area, the upper dantian center here. And we're going to pull up the next message. And this is one of those future messages. It says, it's time now. It's time now for you to do what you came to do, to learn what you came to learn, to implement what you came to implement. It's time now. It's an ignition, it's an igniting and activating of the young people, those who are outside of their bodies, who have left, they're here too still. They can still give their wisdom, even if they only lived a short time. But it's time now. It's time to implement what you came to do. And so I want you to pull that energy up in your crown and your head, and with a deep breath, project it to the top of our pillar. It's time now to do what you came to do. Take a deep breath. Wow, that really cleared my sinuses. It's very expansive. A light blue, very expansive energy that looks like the sky, the most beautiful, clear sky opening up. It's time now. Yeah, wow. It's very cool. So I see that bright blue sky energy. And then we have this very celebratory rainbow, playful field of light. And then that splash of love, the refilling of the cup of the children and the young ones. Good. Good. All right. We've done a great deed today to neutralize and counteract the horrific effects of the human hate program on our young people. Thank you. Thank you for putting your energy into that. And now let's gently unhook ourselves from this pillar. Come back to it. Add more intentions. If you listen to this later, add your intentions and anything else you want to in this pillar, which will transmit this message indefinitely. That's how cool this stuff is. This is a fourth dimensional object that we all made together. Now you know how to do it. It's not hard. You can do it for anything and anyone, anywhere. You can do it in a group. You could do it alone. But I find doing it in groups is way more powerful because you get all that attention from source concentrated at once. And it's amazing. So let's gently unhook ourselves from our object, from the crown, the heart, the gut, and the whole body. And may especially the young children in Nairobi feel this precious gift, perceive it, and have it nourish their souls into healing available now. Good. Yeah, Joe says, that's a really tall pillar. It really is. Yes. We've had enough. We've had enough. And how do we manage ending this stuff? By doing this, by talking together each month, by nourishing ourselves, by meditating, by doing emotional processing, by standing in our sovereignty, by reimagining our sovereignty outside of the constructs of power over, by recognizing that we are the temple and all are welcome in the temple. Thank you, my friends. Thanks for being with us today. Thank you so much for putting all of this into this pillar and how beautiful this pillar is for our young ones. And it can nourish your younger selves too, who didn't have this kind of support. They get to take part in it too, because they didn't go anywhere. They needed to. How beautiful. And thank you for your beautiful questions and to see more clearly about the children. Wonderful comments about the children. Thank you, my friends. I love you. Namaste. Until, let's see, what's the next day that we meet? And it'll be July 25th. So I will see you then, if not sooner, and look for that email tonight about the I Am Divine Nourishing Retreat. If that appeals to you and you enjoy speaking with angels and hearing messages about sovereignty, and of course, look for that class about the dimensions coming up sometime this month. I look forward to getting back to teaching again. I miss it very much. Oh, I just saw a bunch of angels around, so they're like, yeah, all right. Love you all. Namaste. As always, bless you.